Okay then folks, so I'm just applying the varnish. I do it going across the grain. You'll notice I'm going just onto the edge of the fibreglass, and I'm doing it as thinly as I can, just so we end up just filling the grain. Is all I'm really after doing. This will all be sanded down afterwards with some 400 grit wet and dry. So there you go, just going across the grain, make sure you cover the whole surface, make sure it's in to fill those little hollows up. The varnish has been applied, which I did going across grain as you saw. Well, you saw the start of it, and now it's time to sand it. I sand with the grain, and we're just going to go back to a nice sort of satin finish. Now, I'm not going to put too much pressure on this. I just really, I don't want to distort the skin and show where the ribs are and things like that, so I'm just going to lightly go until I get rid of, I don't know if it shows on the video, probably not, but there are slight streaks in there, which are, you know, where the brush lines were. I've tried to keep it to the minimum, and so I'm just going to try and get rid of those. So here we go, just very lightly going backwards and forwards like that. Just before I prime, just to let you know, right, so I've sanded it with 400 grit. Could have probably gone a little bit coarser than that, and then fined it down. This has now been wiped over, and it's going to have first coat of primer on, which will act a bit as a guide coat just to make sure that everything is absolutely perfect. Been primed with a thinned coat of primer, sanded back with 600 grit, and then had another quick light coat. So she is ready for having a full coat of 2K primer, and which would then be lightly buffed back again with 600 grit, and then a finished coat of whatever colour I'm going to paint her. There's very little bit of of grain that was visible after the first coat of primer when I sanded it back, but now it's pretty much all gone. So with just a very light sanding and one good coat of 2K primer, she'd be ready to go. Right then, the review on the Spacak SD1 TD Rudder kit. Completed, well, ready for paint anyway. The final weights, the weight of the rudder after varnishing and sanding, ready for primer, as would be the state that you would have yours in just before you applied the paint, 736 grams. Then I applied primer, sanded it, and reapplied the primer, leaving it in that state ready so I could actually sand that back and put on a 2K, the final 2K primer coat just before I do the final finish. Has put the weight up to 758 grams. So effectively about 20 grams difference per coat of paint. So bear that in mind when you come to do your finish. Total time to this point has been 13.25 hours. That's not included time where I've been doing purchases of bits and pieces online, or in the shops to carry out the build itself, like brushes and things like that, disposable components. That's just been time spent building. So what do I think about the kit itself? Well, I'd give it a 8.5 out of 10. The negative points, let's go through the negative sort of side first. The quality of the foam is probably the bit which I consider to be the lowest point on the kit itself. The foam leading edge, the bit that I had was for the upper side here was 8 to 10 millimeters too short to do the top, let alone to do the whole leading edge, and in the instructions it just states a piece of foam, it doesn't state there's 2 pieces of foam. So it took a little bit of time to get confirmation by email, so I cut the bottom off and did the very bottom of the rudder, and I told them about the problem and anticipated foam to come. It took time, so the customer service was slow, one might say, for them to respond to my the problem of the foam, and they sent a square section which I had to graft in to make the top end of the rudder, as you saw in the last video. Other bits, well, continuing with the leading edge, the actual quality of the foam cutting was not as good as it could have been. It wasn't a problem, it could be sanded out, but it didn't look like somebody had taken the time to cut it precisely. There were a lot of waves, especially at the top end. So that sort of doesn't really lend itself to feeling like you're getting a quality item. The foam ribs to go in, I checked those against the plan. They were too short against the plan. I'd already marked up my skins and got everything sorted there, and that confirmed exactly what it was on the plan. For me to have modified this to accept those so they had full trailing edge of the rib making contact, I would have lost about 12 mil at the lower end of the rudder and had to have modified the wooden ribs. So that wasn't good. The top 2 ribs I had to sand to match the piece of wood, which is what would be expected, but rather than being the whole length of the sort of trailing edge, it was only part of it. The upper section needed to be sanded, so again they were just too short, and the bottom one there was a clearance all the way along, about 2 mil at the top, going down to about 3 mil at the bottom or so, which I had to fill in with a bulking agent and the resin. So they're the negative sides. The positive side, well, the performance of the aircraft is, to one side, the actual kit. The plans are lovely and clear, the quality of the wood is good, the quality of the plywood is excellent. The instructions, well, one might argue that they weren't perfect, but they were definitely adequate for people to build from. The small bits of translational loss was very, very small. The instructions were good in that format, so people could build this rudder without too much hassle. Overall, I'd say that from this, the Spacek is still a strong contender for Project X. Is it a first-time builder's aircraft? I would say probably not, unless that person's got experience of building model aircraft, or maybe building boats, sort of plywood boats. In which case, they've got experience of reading plans and being able to use the tools and know what to expect. If you haven't got that sort of experience, these little niggles which have come up, and I don't think I'm the only one going from what I've seen on social media, could become a bit of a handicap and might result in the aircraft being heavier, if not unsafe. I think it's just going to be heavier than the expected sort of weights. Am I going to go ahead and build a Spacek SD1? Not at the moment. I've got another tail kit, as I said in my initial What is Project X video, coming from Fisher. I decided to, after I pretty much finished this, that I'd place the order with Fisher and try out their kit just to see what that's like and see what their customer service is, and we'll find out from there in further videos. So have a good new year, and hopefully you'll follow me through the Fisher tail build and going on to see what Project X turns out to be in the end. So thanks for joining me. Bye for now.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up. You can subscribe or even hit the little bell notification for future videos. Any comments would be appreciated, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Remember, go fly and feel the sky.